Elijah B says, how should we understand 1 Corinthians, oh, when you got a lot of scripture here, 1:18 through 2:5, verse 14, and 3, verse 18 to 19. Okay, so that's a lot of scripture. I probably won't be able to cover it all right now as we're coming to the end of the Q&A. You said, Ray Comfort quoted this to say Bible stories are supposed to sound dumb. Can't this be quoted to justify any dumb-sounding false teaching? Okay, well, Elijah, I know Ray Comfort personally, so I hesitate to take that description of Ray and think that that's the fullness of what he was saying. So I'm just going to say I'm not going to comment on that as coming from Ray, but let me comment on the idea that you're getting at here, which is 1 Corinthians 1. Let's read some of it to try to maybe understand your question better. All right. For the word of the cross is folly to those who are perishing, but to us who are being saved, it is the power of God. For it is written, I will destroy the wisdom of the wise, and the discernment of the discerning I will thwart. Where is the one who is wise? Where's the scribe? Where's the debater of this age? Has not God made foolish the wisdom of the world? For since in the wisdom of God, the world did not know God through wisdom, it doesn't mean that wise people can't know God. It means they didn't learn about God through highfalutin reasoning and debating. Actually, debating's in there on purpose because there were rhetoricians whose main thing was the debates. It pleased God through the folly of what we preach to save those who believe. For Jews demand signs and Greeks seek wisdom. But we preach Christ crucified, a stumbling block to Jews and folly to Gentiles. But to those who are called, both the Jews and Greeks, Christ the power of God and the wisdom of God. For the foolishness of God is wiser than men, and the weakness of God is stronger than men. So notice this part right here in verse 25. In the end of it all, he's saying, look, I'm not saying the cross is foolishness. And if you read carefully, he never says the cross is actually foolish. He says it's foolishness to those who are perishing. In the end, in verse 25, he's like, yeah, but God's wisdom is, or God's foolishness, what the world considers foolish, is wiser than men in their wisdom. The weakness of God, Jesus dying on the cross, is stronger than men in their strength. I could read on, but I think I understand the point now that you're getting at. Should we say, therefore, that Bible stories are supposed to sound dumb? I think that's a clumsy way to put it, but I will say this. If it's true that worldly, unsaved people are likely to look at the cross, especially those who consider themselves highly educated, and look at the gospel and think of it as foolishness, is it also likely that they'll look at, say, Genesis creation account and think the same thing? That seems reasonable to me. At least it's consistent. So there's a sense in which I would say that the world looking at scripture and the same person who finds the gospel foolish, thinking that the Bible's teaching on slavery is messed up, and I go, but when I read and study the teaching on slavery, I see something that would have completely outlawed the American slavery that we saw in years past, that would have punished everybody involved in the whole process, that would have created every city would be a sanctuary city. If any slave runs away, he must be given a place to stay in whatever city he goes, and you do not return him to his master. This is what scripture actually says, but they don't see this. They only see what their worldview would like for them to see. And so they see foolishness where there's actually wisdom. So this is consistent to me, actually. I wouldn't be surprised, but it's a clumsy to say the Bible stories are supposed to sound dumb. I wouldn't say that, right? I think the Bible stories are brilliant. So why would I say they're supposed to sound dumb? The problem is not the way they sound. The problem is the person hearing it. It's foolishness to them because of issues they have going on spiritually. That would be the consistent thing with this passage. I hope that gives you some things to think about. I do agree with you, Elijah. It's a very bad idea to think that you can say, well, if you think my doctrine sounds foolish, it must be true. Like that's like a really not a good principle to have. We need solid scripture to promote our doctrines and not just the policy of, if it sounds foolish to you, I must be accurate.